Hello, everyone. So I am back with another round of rapid fire reviews. So, of course, I do these when I get a little bit behind on my movie watching for the year, and I am very behind. So, I have another four movies that I'm going to be giving my very quick thoughts, overall review, whether I liked it or not, the little things that I liked and didn't like about the movies. And the four films that I have today are Significance Other, Triangle of Sadness, Amsterdam, and All Quiet on the Western Front. So, usually these are either like straight to streaming movies or films that came out in the theaters that I didn't get the chance to see until a little later after their initial release dates. So yes, without further ado, let me get into these rapid fire reviews. So the first film I have is Significant Other. This one is about like an hour and 20 minutes long. You'll find it on Paramount Plus, and it follows a young couple who take a remote backpacking trip through the Pacific Northwest and face very sinister events that lead them to realize that everything they know about this place, the woods that they're in, are not what it seems. There is a bit of like a Lovecraftian era to this film, but never in like the true sense of that Lovecraft. A bit of cosmic horror is really what I'm trying to say comes into this movie. There's some decent acting within the film and some pretty honestly gnarly kills within it too that I did quite enjoy. I found that there are points in this movie that are very, very slow where it felt like it might have been better off as almost like a short film rather than going for like a full length feature. Again, the performances are pretty solid within it. The story has some pacing issues, but overall, I thought it was something very, very cool. If they would have went into kind of the it leaves off on an ending that I just didn't really like. Something that I found was a bit of a kind of cop out ending in a lot of ways and just very predictable in terms of its pacing and how the events play out. So honestly, it's a decent movie, decent cosmic horror within the genre, but nothing game changing, nothing groundbreaking, nothing really special at the end of the day when it comes to Significant Others. So really, with everything taken together, I'm gonna have to give it a 6 out of 10. It's a decent little watch, and especially too when you can find it on streaming. It's a very easy binge. The next film I have is Triangle of Sadness. This is about 2.5 hours long. You'll find it in theaters still, and it is directed by Ruben Ostlund, and it is kind of about a cruise for the super rich, which ends up sinking and thus leaving the survivors, including well, the main couple that we follow is a very like fashion model celebrity couple, seem to be very, very popular and very, very successful in what they're doing. So this again, the boat crash leaves them trapped on a very remote island. So this is mostly like a very satirical comedy, which honestly has some really hilarious jokes, satire, commentary, just about wealth disparity, again too, just knocks at cruises in their own sense, knocks at the extremely wealthy and how prudent they can be towards, again, people underneath their status, but put them in situations like this, and it does really there's some really funny moments in this movie. I don't want to spoil a lot of the humor because I really, really liked it. Woody Harrelson's character is absolutely hilarious in his role, and you could tell he had a lot of fun with this project. I will say though that there are a few times in this movie where they go kind of towards the gross bathroom humor, and by bathroom humor I mean like literal feces humor and things like that. And a lot of it I found was just over long sequences of just being very over the top, over excessively gross, and I felt that did take a little bit away from the meaning of the scenes. And again, some of my enjoyments from the film having to watch some of these just way too over the top gross scenes within the movie. But honestly, I did like the commentary in this. I found it was very funny. Set design, everything like that was really, really good, but each conversation brings it kind of, again, its own satirical joke within it, which I found it was very, very well written. The characters are very, very dynamic. None of them kind of stay the same in a way, or stay the same in a way that I want to say, of course, the experience of boat crash changes all of them, and even though some characters will stay who they are and absolutely useless. It makes very good use of that within, again, the commentary of this movie. So I did really, really enjoy Triangle of Sadness. It's easily one of the funniest comedies that came out this year. If you like that very satirical style of humor where you might need to turn your brain on a little bit to understand, again, some of the significance of it. But it was something very, very fun. And I do quite recommend it. I'm going to have to give Triangle of Sadness, really, at the end of the day, a 7 out of 10. Very, very fun movie that I do think most anyone could enjoy. So the next film I have is David O. Russell's latest. This is Amsterdam. It's about 2 hours and 15 minutes long and has an absolutely stacked cast from people like Christian Bale, Margot Robbie, John David Washington, Anya Taylor-Joy, Chris Rock, Mike Myers, Michael Shannon, Timothy Olyphant. Like, really, the list just keeps going and going and going. And it has a very stacked, awesome cast. Rami Malek's in it as well. But it takes place in the 1930s and is about three friends who witness a murder. They're then framed for it, and it is their job to uncover one of the most outrageous plots in American history, is the synopsis of this film. And again, from the trailers of this, I thought this was going to be a lot more of a fun movie, something more in the line of David O. Russell's kind of style. But a lot of the times, this felt almost like a theater production in ways that wasn't necessarily a bad thing. I just didn't find that it fits into this movie, into this world. A lot of the times too, I felt like the acting, even though you have these amazing people with the scripts that they're given, with the very slow and unenergetic pacing of this movie, Christian Bale was really one of the only people I can say who really put on a really good performance within this movie, where he was extremely entertaining to watch, but it seemed like he was the only one having fun within the role. There's a lot of just really gray area that this movie covers that I just found in a lot of ways was just really boring and dull in a lot of ways, and took forever, it felt like, to get its feet moving. Even when, like, again, the gears started to turn towards the story, it felt so slow and boring and empty in a lot of ways. Watching this movie is actually one of the hardest times I've ever had staying awake within it. Yeah, I did watch a video kind of explaining a bit of the story. Not that I didn't understand it by the end of the film, but there was just a few sequences where they go into like dreamlike states, things like that, or like mirages that the characters are having at points in time, that I just needed a bit of explaining to do, because a lot of the times, like, I was trying to fight myself to stay awake and I might have missed a few things. And it did clear up a few things to me, made it a little more interesting, especially since it's based off of, again, true events. That I still needed a bit of that explanation to, again, just heighten my senses a little bit coming to this movie, because I just found it was extremely dreadfully boring in a lot of ways, and something that just made it a tough watch for me. Not necessarily that it's bad, but I'm gonna have to give it a 5 out of 10, because I just found this movie to be very dull for the very strong premise, cast, everything that was within it. But just when it came to, mostly, again, just the pacing of this film and some of the very slow dialogue, made it a tougher watch than I feel like it really ever needed to be. And the last film I have, you will find on Netflix, is about 2.5 hours long, and it is All Quiet on the Western Front. So this is about a young German soldier's terrifying experience and distress on the Western Front during World War One. It is directed by Edward Berger, and yeah, it is essentially about very eager young men who enlist in, again, the army, thinking that it's their duty, they're going to have fun doing it. It's, again, just a calling for the nation, that they're going to be praised as heroes. They're doing their duty for the country. It's something exciting at the times, because of, again, some of the propaganda based around World War One. But of course, when they get into the trenches, the combat, their duties, all the things like that, it starts to almost become a horror film in senses. And the directing and amazing soundtrack, lighting, everything like that, and including the amazing acting, does make this feel like a horror movie in some ways. And these kids eventually start to realize that, again, too, it's not all that it was shaped up to be. Never being told the loss of it, the you're not really doing anything for your country, you're doing things for the old old men sitting in a room eating cocktail shrimp all day are the ones that you're fighting this war for because there's profit within it. It's like the things like that I found was just brilliant commentary. They show both sides of it. They show again like the courtroom, the negotiation side of things between the commanders who are just letting all these young people die for them essentially, and it's very heart wrenching. It's very hard to watch sometimes. The war, like trench combats, stunning cinematography, just the brutality within it was something really, really good. And they go into a lot of aspects too about things around ceasefire, things about like there's some war crimes within this movie, tank warfare. They go a little bit into the just um aspects around having to steal from like the farmers that you knew beforehand for provisions and things like that because you're losing in the sense like there's a scarcity within the armies and their supplies, and like you're taking from your own people to survive and keep on fighting. Just the selfishness that comes through in the war and everything I found was just very, very good commentary mixed with amazing acting, amazing cinematography, amazing battle sequences that are brutal, absolutely brutal, and just very, very, again, horror movie like if you want to take it into that experience. All Quiet on the Western Front is easily one of the best war movies in years, and with everything taken together, I'm gonna have to give it an 8.5 out of 10. There are times where it can get very dialogue heavy and slow and feel like there might be some pacing issues after some just very grueling sequences, but it's amazingly put together and amazingly filmed. Again, too, easily one of the best. Um, I do want to say probably the best war movie since 1917. I do feel like it took some inspiration from that film, where there are very long one take sequences that again are just very, very well put together and put into this movie. So yeah, I do highly recommend this one if you feel like you can have the stomach for a war tale like it. But please, in the comments down below, let me know if you've seen any of these four movies and what your thoughts are of them. Love hearing that, of course. And if you like this review, definitely give me a thumbs up. And you can check out everything I do on my channel. Links and playlists up top here for convenience sake. Thank you for subscribing. Turn that little ringer on so you know when I upload new videos. If you want to check out everything I do, well, if you want to go to the video description of this video and my channel bio, there's a link to the Media Mountain, which is my Discord where we talk about movies, video games, comic books, TV, pretty much everything that's awesome in this world. So you definitely join that amazing community. Help make it even more amazing than it is already. And yeah, just awesome, guys.
Sky blue eyes, I see a world behind them. No more time sinking into the silence.